Pow pow, and here we are.
Nice. Yeah, we're really feeling
Oh,
it now.
oh yeah, for sure.
This is round three, so
Ra-
we've got that strength of a triangle.
Heck yeah. So we wanted to start off today with the horoscope, as it were, the Mayan calendar.
Yeah, I'm thinking that would be. I think, and the reason why I like the idea of doing this is to kind of kick it off, so that every episode kind of starts with, you know, we kind of feeling like the Mayan. I don't know what do we call it? What is it called?
The Tzolk'in.
The collection of Mayan.
Oh, uh,
Um,
the
their astronomy. You know,
the cosmology, I guess, would be
their
the
cosmology. Yes. Mayan
best term for it.
cosmology. So that's definitely a cornerstone of what we're inspired by. Our discussions are inspired by. So it feels apropos to have them be a launching point or something to kind of get us going each time. So I'd like to, if you're down
Oh
to kind of
yeah,
kick it off this way of moving forward.
for sure. Yeah, yeah. And I mean, our discussions always end up like relating to it in some manner or
Oh
form, like
yeah,
always just coming back to it. So that would be, I think, the most beneficial. So on that, today we're actually in the last day of the first week of the Mayan calendar, the Sol calendar. The and like there's a whole movement starting to happen where there's the actual Mayan people, a couple of folks are taking this information and spreading it in mass. So from what I understand, the proper pronunciation of it is called the Cholkin. I've been calling it Tolkien, but it's the Cholkin.
hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
that's
even gonna try. Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So the Tolkien, as I mentioned before, is basically the energetic calendar, the cycles through which energy is projected to us from the center of the galaxy. And so we started a new week 12 days ago. Today's the 13th day of the week. And so that 13 represents the universal principle of movement and vibration, right? Everything that is in the universe is based off of vibration. And as I mentioned last week, the one of the best ways to look at the week, the fortnight week of the Jolkin, is to look at it as a growth pattern for a plant or a tree. So again, you'll go through the seed, germination, sprouting, prolific growth, expansive growth, and then you go into budding, flowering, and fruiting. And so we're on the fruit day of that first week, which is the week of potential, right? Because that's the first energy sign in the cycle. So
Gotcha.
so it's like this week is like this emphasis, the start of how the cycles will run in the year. So it all is fractal in that
So the
nature, right?
Trikana, the Trikana, right, for this week is kind of emblematic of the year then too, not
Yeah.
just for the week itself, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also for the entire year. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. So today, like we both mentioned, is kind of a rough day for us, and that kind of makes sense because what we're looking at is how the connection between heaven and earth takes place, thinking in that unified understanding, right? As above, so below, right? So, or and as above, as below, so above, like because it's a reflection, and it also unveils that understanding of as without, so within, right? So stuff that we're dealing with on the outside reflects stuff we're dealing with on the inside, which is probably a good indicator of the things that we need to work on our own mental emotional side so as to approach the universe in a more clear state, in a unified state. So anything that's going to come up is going to come up, and we're going to have to face it and deal with it.
Gotcha. Is that more for the day, like the 13, or is that more for the particular uh, symbol of the day or the
And
nawal of the day?
that's it. So that would be yes and, right?
It's both.
Because right, because this is the 13th day, so it embodies that understanding of 13.
Mm,
Even though we look at the tones, the numbers, if you will, the days of the week, as modifiers for that energy,
gotcha.
right? So you could look at that number, that 13th energy, in every single cycle that it's in at a different point in that energy's growth, right? So you could see what the connection of heaven and earth looks like as a seed in the week of the 13th symbol. You can see
Mm,
what the prolific growth looks like in the week where it's the seventh day, and
got
so
it.
on and so forth. So, just to read from the uh, data bank, this app that I have, uh, which is literally a calculator in a data bank. So it's just got as much information packed into it as possible. You just need to adjust the for the day. Is that the number 13 is the principle of universal movement or vibration? Excuse me. So it's they correlate movement and vibration as essentially being the same thing. Sort of like what
Right.
Nikola Tesla says. Think of everything in terms of frequency, wavelength, and vibration.
Right. Nothing has no movement. Does that
Right.
does that make sense? I know it's a double negative, but everything has a vibration. You can't. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
even absolute zero, like things are still moving.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't stop things.
Right. Otherwise, it just phases out completely.
Right. Yeah.
And it's in science books. Like they show you a graph of like vibration. It goes down to X-rays. You got this narrow band for visible light. It goes to ultraviolets, and you got infrareds and all this, and then it shows you different graphics of what different things vibrate at. And weirdly enough, it'll include a football pitch, a grass field, and it'll
Mm,
tell you basically the general vibration in hertz of what that spot is. Now, they don't go into detail into saying that every single point on the planet has its own specific frequency and vibration, and that you can harness those things. I don't know. Did we mention this before? How you can see the representation of that frequency in the cymatic pattern displayed in the uh, stained glass windows in a church.
cymatic pattern.
So cymatics is just the understanding that every vibration, every frequency has a very specific pattern. The
Mm,
best way they show this is putting sand on a plate and vibrating the plate. The most basic example is putting it on a metal plate and taking a rosin bow and just sliding it across there, and it'll make all the sand will make a very specific pattern. And so if you
mm,
influence that plate with different vibrations, you can create different patterns. And if you
mm-hmm.
put the right vibration to it, it starts to look organic. And the more complex the
Whoa.
vibrations, the more detailed and complex the image
Gotcha.
becomes. And then you could do that
So,
with bubbles and water, and it just gets
oh
crazy
yeah,
expansive that way. So,
yeah, to the point where that's how life started. You could it makes you think like it just vibrations in the right combination
hmm
coming at each other, twist together to moves things that were inanimate, and now they have become animate because they have the right movement. They're dancing just right with and just the right pattern to have them live and then die.
uh-huh.
Right?
Yep, exactly. Even and even to that understanding, you can expand it further to say the echo of that will last forever throughout the universe, even though the
Mm,
source point will be dissipated.
mm,
And you can look; it's displayed in all of the ancient texts, all the religious texts. Michael Tellinger has done some seriously good work on describing this understanding. Unfortunately, people just don't want to give him credit for the work that he's done because he's doing his best to start from zero and work backwards. The old trope of everything's a lie. This isn't real. That's not real. Blah 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 blah. Just start spitting off what you understand to be true. Uh, well, he did that to such a degree that the greater scientific field just dropped him altogether because
oh, sure.
they weren't willing to commit to that kind of understanding.
Right.
So, or to that depth of starting from fresh. It's all his story, right? And
Right. It becomes anecdotal, and you can't empirically measure whatever's coming out.
right,
And
yeah,
then it's like, yeah, well, you leave the broad scientific community no choice at that point. We don't
right,
have the instruments, we don't have the ways of measuring all these different things, and that's where we are behind in terms of the scientific revelation of the existence of what is really here, not
hmm
just what we can see with our eyes and feel with our body. I mean, it's there too,
right,
just that we're not tuned to it. So we're tuned to a narrow band of frequencies,
yeah,
and and I remember like it's really disheartening to hear that like at first when you're like oh like when you first are taught like question everything, and your senses are lying to you in ways or something. Like
hmm
they're not telling you the full story, or they're conditioned, and so it's really disheartening because then you're like, wow, okay, well, shoot, like you don't know what to trust, and you
hmm
don't know what to believe, and it can be very decentering for yourself. Um, to have that remove, it feels like it removes your identity from your center. I guess in a big way, that's by design too, from the powers that be, whether intentionally or otherwise, to remove your center from yourself, so that you feel like so that you can be messed with or kept in a spot.
yeah,
Gosh, a lot of that's another theme of our discussions. It's always going to be the powerful and how they mess with the. I don't want to say powerless, but those that don't recognize are unaware of their power. So
right, yeah, exactly. Because we have an immense amount of power, each individual, and the fact that we don't take hold of that power, recognize it, and do our best in group
but we don't
in
know.
mass
Yeah, we don't even
to
know how to wield it, right? We don't even know how
right.
to wield it because we're under the assumption that like you can even say you can even have a mantra like in the U.S. of like oh like in general like oh you can achieve anything you want to, you can do anything is possible,
Uh-huh.
but it's still bound by the rules that the society creates. You're still like, oh, but because of where I was born, or because of my socioeconomic status, because of my belief systems, you know, I have a narrow pathway that I have to follow if I want to achieve it. So it's counter even if you have the mantra like, oh, I can, anything is possible, but yeah, you know, first you have to like let go of all of these other things in order
Right.
to make it so.
The limiting
In order
beliefs,
to
yeah.
believe it, yeah. In order
Yeah.
to actually be able to get there. Uh, yeah. Anyway, and that's the exercise. That's the practice. That's like diving into these other cultures and ways of seeing the world. Is
Yeah.
that and trying to actually see where they line up. Where are they similar? Where do they have, you know? And that's where you can kind of get your center again, I think.
Right. Yeah. And so to that note, the points that were being put together by Michael Tellinger is that every religion is speaking to the understanding that vibration comes first, and then everything proceeds afterwards. In the Bible, the God said, "Let there be light." So before light had to happen,
Oh, yeah.
boom, the sound had to come first. The
Right.
vibration had to happen. The Egyptians understand that the universe was sung into creation. The singing, the
Right.
vibration. The
And the Iluvatar.
Aboriginals,
The Iluvatar in
Era,
Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings.
Iluvatar, yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's all same.
yeah, yeah.
It's all yeah.
It's all one song that has
And
different
that's
levels and variations
that's
of
the
notes.
part. Sorry, yeah, but and that's the part. And then yeah, Melkor is the one who is saying in disharmony. It's like word for word, or it's a exact copy of you know Satan or the devil's fall from. You know, he's like, I'm gonna do something disharmonious with all the harmony that's here,
Yeah, I'm gonna do
and
my
that's
own
why the
thing
snake.
because I'm connected so much so to God. Like He gave me so
Yeah.
much information that the only ones that are like comparable to me are my opposite in light
Hmm.
and God. The only, God being the only one that's truly superior. And so Melkor, it creates this disharmony
Dissonance.
because this dissonance, and that because he wants to do something better. He wants to be more. He wants to
Hmm.
show that he is the best, and
Yeah,
that
I mean it's pride. It's the same
that
thing as the
that
devil and Satan. It's like, oh, it's like,
and that
yeah, yeah,
superiority complex corrupts and creates this dissonance. But to his credit, Era Iluvatar says at the end of the music, even though you tried to create disharmony and dissonance in my music, in my orchestra, it was all part of my plan.
dude, how metal is that? How
Right?
rock and roll is that,
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
right?
It's like, yeah, yeah. Good job.
It's also kind of yeah. We
Now let
need
me
that.
show you
We
why
need
I am who I am. Blah.
I mean, because that comes down to too, like if there is a benevolent God, like why do bad things happen? Why do kids get cancer? Why are there wars? And it's like, and that's where you can kind of get into. It's like, well, we wouldn't learn what good is if we didn't experience pain and suffering. Our souls are eternal beings, even just in our own lives, even just as a physical selves. Um, there would be nothing to learn. Everything would be static. There would be no vibration.
Right? Yeah. You have
So
in
there would be
order.
no. That's the same thing. People would say it'd be boring. There'd be no point to living.
Right.
Uh, you're alive forever. Okay, great. Like,
Right. If you don't understand death, you have no appreciation for that life.
all right.
Without contrast, without darkness, it's pure blinding white light. There's no differentiation between anything. You can't
Yeah.
understand joy if you don't know sorrow. You can't understand bliss if you don't know pain.
Yeah. So I don't know if we can touch on this real quickly because I do want to get back to. We're still talking about vibration. and
Yeah.
the 13th day. We'll get back to the rest of the horoscope, hopefully within within the 2 hours. Um, and then I just lost my thread. Yeah, great. Well, anyway,
It's all good. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So, well, I was speaking to contrast, and you don't know joy and pain.
Oh yeah. So perfect. Thank you.
Hmm.
Um, just that when the enlightened or ascended or gurus talk about having it feeling blissful all the time. There's this sense though that can be kind of frustrating because it's like we attach to it our idea of what that must feel like, but they're talking, if they're legit, they're talking from a place of like this is an experience. I still have sadness. I still feel bad when my friends die and bad things happen. But there's I don't know. Anyway, some sort of like persistent acknowledgement of just this is the way this is all part of life and it's beautiful because how could it happen any other way? Um, yeah. So, but that's more or less intangible. So it's like, to what extent are we already feeling that, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, like I'm just feeling. I'm just not getting caught up in my emotions, but I'm still feeling them when they're happening. Um, and then, so is that it? Am I feeling the bliss that is like, that is eternal? Like, because I can always go back to it, or I can always, it always returns when I'm less present with the tug of war of emotional upheaval that can happen with a traumatic event or something like that.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the acceptance that it all must be, and to still be present within yourself and choose love that makes it truly worth it.
Right. So that's what I'm thinking about. Is like today, or like the times this week where you and I were feeling like a little stuck in the mud.
Yeah.
Uh, we are failing to. I don't know. Like I don't know if it's failing or like are we? Because like part of me is going like I don't want to feel this right now, and I'm like I'm not able to like either separate myself from the feeling in those moments or during that time. I'm not able to separate myself from like, and I wasn't even sure what it was. It's just kind of like this gnawing kind of like, ugh. And I mean that's part of it. It's like just that I can't, that I'm not aware of what it is that is dragging on me, that
Hmm.
is keeping me there.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah.
to your credit, that you brought up a couple of good points there. Just as an example of things that I also was kind of feeling that way too. On Sunday, it was the flowering of the monkey. The basically the expansion and dissipation of truth. Like you're
Okay.
blooming into this idea of truth. To embody the monkey energy is to literally just be that chattering monkey. It just a
Mm,
monkey speaks what's on its mind, right? He's gonna say
okay.
what he's feeling, what he's thinking, what's on his mind. It's not necessarily to harm or to hurt, but it is exactly what it is. And he's unabashed
Mm-hmm.
about it, right? If he's angry at you, he's gonna be angry
That's
at you.
true.
He's gonna let you
Yeah.
fucking know. If he's like having a good time, he's gonna sit there and chatter with you and just crack
Gotcha.
jokes, like and so like I was experiencing that like while I was at rehearsal. I was sitting there like trying to conduct a fight call and I was just getting very irritated at the fact that nobody else was recognizing this. So I was having to chime in like and be rather loud on certain occasions. Just sometimes it was abrasive. Like and but I was just like, man, I shouldn't have said it like that. Like there's kids around, like they need a good example of what to be. But if I don't speak my truth and I don't stand up for myself in this situation, then I'm just being walked all over. And so, like, I
Yeah.
have to establish this barrier of understanding. And for the most part, it was about safety, right? Because we're doing fight
Yeah.
call.
Well,
Like, you
there you
have
go.
to
Yeah.
be very safe about the situation. Like, with the two people in the situation, and, like, I mean, people were just crossing in front of us, just behind people, just super close, hovering. It's like, guys, what are you doing? Like,
Mm.
get off the stage, please. Like, and some people were just not listening because they were engaged with what they were doing just then,
Yeah.
and I was just like, hey, come on, get off the stage, thank you,
Yeah.
and I was still
Needs to
using
be
my
said.
P's
Needs
and
to be done.
Q's,
Like,
but
yeah.
I was a bit, abrasive with it. I was a bit aggressive with it, but you also have to accept that that is a part of life. Like,
Right.
you have to be unabashedly truthful so that you don't retain anything
Mm.
that will haunt you. Just like,
Mm.
yeah, it bothered me. And I wasn't particularly proud of certain situations, but I said what was on my mind and what was on my heart. And that's the
Whoa.
best that we can all do. Right? So, like, the best
Mm.
thing to do from there is to recognize that, and I'll recognize that I wasn't necessarily living in my heart for that moment. So I need to come back to here and accept and project unconditional love. So that when I do need to speak my mind and my heart, I can do so more gently.
Gotcha. And it still comes across with the assertiveness that it needs to. It still gets the attention that it needs to, so that for example, in your story, like, so that you can have the fight call and get whatever safety parameters need to be established out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
But without the need to be like, oh, that was a little too much. Uh, um, Came on a little strong there. Yeah, that does feel like, if you can manage to be there all the time, that unconditional love. It seems so strange. I don't. That's the frequency that you want to be vibing with.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's where you would feel that, like, eternal bliss, like you would, because if you can be unmoved from that center, um, you should be able to call upon your resources to know, hey, here's how I'm going to say it. I need to say it, and here's the moment where I'm going to say it, because I'll get the most ears, and so that'll get everybody else be like, oh, okay, we're paying attention over here now. Um, but yeah, that takes a, man, does that take a, epic level of calm and perception, uh, patient, all of those virtues, right? All of the virtues that would otherwise get you there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's
And you
part.
can't call upon, but you can't call upon them when you need them, right? Like, when you're there and you're feeling the things and you want to say the thing that you want to, like, it feels like it needs to happen now, and then
Right.
you know that you're acting on a some other impulse, maybe an ego, maybe
Mm-hmm.
then so
And
so
that's where the
um
work comes in.
so we are in. Is this the year of the monkey then? Is this because that's this
Oh,
week?
that's a
We're
great
ending that
question.
week.
That's a
We're
great
ending that week,
question. Um,
and this is the first week of the year.
because
Because
there
when we started this
is.
podcast, you were talking about this being the last. That things were in transition, because this was the end of the Mayan year, the 280-day cycle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there is a sign and symbol for each year. It goes in a very different pattern, and
Oh,
I've
so it's not necessarily what day it starts on.
right, because it always
Gotcha.
starts. Hmm. To the Ha'ab, yeah, it probably has a close tie to that.
What's the Ha'ab?
The Ha'ab is the celestial calendar, so
Gotcha.
it's the equivalent of the Gregorian calendar. It's just our trip around the
And
sun.
how many calendars do they have again?
A lot.
Okay,
There's at
that's great.
least
If you don't know,
nine that
fine.
I am aware of. There's at least nine that
Yeah,
I'm
you
aware
know,
of.
we just want, you're educating me, but anybody who ends up watching this, they're gonna get. I want to make sure that anybody out there who's interested in not only what we end up talking about, but um, the Mayan cosmology, that
Yeah,
we get some basics out there as well.
yeah. You've just inspired me to look up the group that I mentioned earlier, where they're discussing because they're from the Yucatan,
Hmm.
they're
Oh,
from
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Central America, who are
They're the real
spreading
deal.
this awareness, huh?
We're just fanboys. They're the real deal.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a lot of study and done
Hmm.
my best to harness the energy in its entirety and follow the path
Hmm.
like a true acolyte. But there's
Yeah.
only so
Well,
much you
even
could
but I mean, even
do without
acolytes
the.
can become the pope. So there's a pathway there. Anything is possible. So you know, if we keep at this, maybe someday, we'll be accepted to the, highest echelons of the Mayan temples. Well, they'll be like, you guys were paying attention.
Yeah,
You
you did good, guys. Well done.
guys did great. Here you
Yeah,
go. Here's your gift.
yeah,
You're gonna get
yeah.
your Mayan sacrifice. You're gonna play the elbow knees game, and you guys are gonna win.
Head,
And
shoulders, knees and
as your
toes.
present, you're gonna get a sacrifice. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, I mean, we already in mass drink what the Aztecs considered like the true elixir of the gods. You know, they're the leader of the Aztec community was drinking what's it coffee with cacao and cayenne pepper, and so the dude was just literally high as balls on caffeine and endorphins, and he's just like, I am a god, like I feel amazing, and he's just drinking this stuff constantly. So he's basically on the equivalent of espresso shots, like a 4 espresso shot mocha, you know. So like we're already at that point of trying to understand and live at his level, even though I'm sure he was
Um,
taken out a little bit, you know.
who is that?
Um,
One of the
oh,
Mayan.
he was a Aztec leader.
Oh, Aztec. Okay.
Yeah, and this was like at the height of ritual sacrifice where they're ripping people's hearts out and all this. Still beating hearts. Still beating
Hmm.
hearts.
So is that kind of like a ritual sacrifice like that? That's like a little bit of a. Were they acting on what they thought was there? Do you believe that there's any like reality to that, like justification to the sacrifice, or is that some sort of distortion of potentially what they're supposed to do, or also like it's a distortion, but it's also like a plan for distortion, right? Because it's inevitable to happen when people are trying to figure out, are trying to like, hey, we need rain, so let's sacrifice 1,000 people. Um,
Yeah. The,
it's because yeah. I
yeah.
don't know if that's a
I would.
coherent question, but
Yeah. And I would say yes. It it was an understanding that devolved in from what I would gather that devolved into barbarism. So to sacrifice yourself to God wouldn't necessarily mean to just rip your heart out, right, and offer it up to God in a physical sense,
right.
but rather in a metaphorical sense, because when you look inward and truly sacrifice all of that ego, all of those things that you think that you are, in order to find what's truly at the center, what's in your heart, what you need in your heart, then you give that heart to God, right? And
Mm.
then your life becomes different. Whereas
Not
they were
only
seeing
that, but
it
that's
as a literal mean. It's like kind of like
right,
what we do with the Bible. Like we take a lot of it as literal when
literal.
a lot of it is metaphorical and
Yeah,
figurative. There. Don't get me wrong. There are historical accounts in there, but you have to
right,
be discerning. You have to understand. It's like, okay, this happened.
right.
That is a parable. This is a metaphor for this.
Well,
And this is an
words
example.
and kind of tying it back to vibration and words and stuff. It's like words. It's language is an art, and maybe we've touched on that before too. But like words can only go so far to paint the picture, and you need to be able to, yeah, recognize symbols. I mean, that's why all cultures use symbols. Letters themselves are symbols. When they're
Mm-hmm.
put together in a certain order, it makes you go, "Oh, I know what that word is," and then you have a representation of what that is, or the ideal, or the quintessential version of what that thing is in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what's in your mind, and when you see that word, is different than what's in my mind,
Right.
and maybe in different detail as well.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
so just that the language. Uh, Gosh, that's why I feel like that's why I definitely feel like this last week, um,
Mm-hmm.
after having kind of like a big release intention, I was able to kind of focus and go, where am I kind of blocked? And I'm feeling it in the back of my neck, down my right side, and in the center of my back. Usually it's my lower back where I feel kind of like the most tense, or kind of like probably in my lower centers, my lower chakras. But so I was feeling it was very much a solar plexus thing and very much a throat chakra thing, voice and ego or my power center,
Mm-hmm. Dude,
where
I'm
I'm feeling
sorry.
most clunky.
I,
Yeah, what do you got?
I just I apologize if you're picking up anything that I'm putting out there because that's exactly what I've been feeling the last week.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
maybe that's yeah, maybe it's more the monkey stuff. Maybe it's beyond us. It's not just us. Maybe it's a more generalized thing. If we had an audience, we could be asking them. You guys feel this too? And
right.
that's what I ultimately want too, is like to have a network where you can live kind of get a pulse of a large enough sample size of people and what they're experiencing. And you have to imagine though too that even that is a lie. Even that would be a lie because you're going to get you're going to get confirmation biases because you're going to get enough people saying, yeah, 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 I'm feeling that too. And then you're also going to get a nice swath of people that are going, you have no idea their level of awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, you were giving your story about having the speech thing, and I just stuck up for myself last night when my wife was looking for um, the headphones that I usually have attached to my computer here because we're going on a trip this weekend, and I've been borrowing her headphones, and she brought me out of what I was doing to come help look for the headphones,
Mm-hmm.
and I couldn't find all the pieces of the headphones, and she kind of had a little attitude with me, and I was like, listen, like you kind of brought me out of where I'm going, and just because not just an attitude, but she was calling me out for like not taking care of her stuff because I couldn't remember where all of it was. And so I was like, well, that doesn't seem just. So I kind of took that up with her, to
Mm-hmm.
say like, that's how it made me feel. And there was a little bit of just a little back and forth where I kind of had to kind of put my foot down. And that's where I felt like I was being a little abrasive, but I needed to have my truth known. It's like, I'm not, I need to be vindicated here in this moment of I didn't lose track of your stuff. It's just that I wasn't in that world, and now I'm trying to acquiesce and be a part of this world and get this thing for you because it's on your mind. and I need to be acknowledged for that. I need to be acknowledged that I found all the things, and that it wasn't me not taking care of your stuff in the first place.
Right.
Obviously, the emotion of that story has carried me away a little bit to what we were originally talking about, but that was my moment of monkey this recently.
Yeah.
Where were we just before that though? Why did I go into that? To be able to, to be able to communicate with a large sample size of people,
Mm-hmm.
to get that same awareness. You know,
Right.
I was, when you were giving your story, I kind of went into that mode of like, okay, did I have experiences this last week or longer? Because it's the 13th day, so when have been the moments? And in 13, 14 days, I mean, you're gonna have those moments if you look hard enough, if you're aware enough, and that's where people kind of can get kind of into the, I don't know, the hysteria or overblownness of astrology, and go, oh yeah, well it applies to everybody all the time, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's where the real challenge of this stuff comes, is to how aware can you become, and it seems so difficult. It seems like so much energy, so much effort needs to be put into the practices and the way you have to go about life, that not everybody has access to in the
Mm-hmm.
immediate or direct way. So it needs to happen at a slow, bit by bit. So anyway,
Yeah.
where I want to be able to have this audience that could give us live feedback. Are you feeling these things too? Are you feeling the blockages here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about them. You would get some responses, yes, and of course that information would be healthy and good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you would also, people who would be, naysaying or being like, nope, that's not it, and trying to bring it down,
Yep.
are probably just not aware. They're probably just not. And then it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing watching, wasting your time watching this shit anyway? Then,
Right. Yeah.
but so I'm just thinking, yeah.
Yeah. So, just I got a perfect example of that. I don't know. Was that earlier this morning? Was it last night? I think it was last night. But, uh, so on my reels, like I was kind of doom scrolling, and like one of the first things that popped up was a guy called the Certified Health Nut on YouTube. Dude is like in it. Like he has gone through the work, he has done the research, he's read the books, he's gone through the practices. Dude is jacked. Okay, like he is glowing with just healthy energy. Like his skin is just absolutely tan, but he's not burnt because he's just spending an exuberant amount of time out in the sun. Like he's not looking like he's leathery. He's just
Hmm.
got this healthy energy, and he's just doing his best to help those who are looking for it. And so he was talking about these subconscious holdings within the body that you don't realize are happening. But when you're experiencing these old emotions or old traumas, like they tend to hold in certain parts of your body. Like you were mentioning, like you had neck issues, you were feeling in your neck. It's like
Hmm.
sometimes that manifests as tension between your shoulder blades, and all of a sudden you're curling your neck back, and you're just like because you're frustrated. You can't. Why would you do that? And so like you're just completely tensing up over this emotional reality when you just would be better to relax, focus on where that hold of energy is that's causing you to feel so upset, and see,
Because
oh, there's a
maybe it's
it's
not in
a,
the neck.
right. It's
Yeah,
just
right,
manifesting there just because your emotional body is reacting, and your
right.
physicality is forced to acquiesce. So like the day that my body took me down last week, I was furious at my cousin for how he dealt with the death of our family member, or with how I approached him with the information rather. And so like we're dealing with the loss in our own way, right? And at the time, like my phone was off. I couldn't text him. I couldn't call him. I could have called him via the house phone, but would he have answered? He was at work, so I didn't want to disturb him there. And I was trying
Yeah.
like as hard as I possibly could to be like, hey, dude, text me when you get home. Like, let me know when you're home so I can give this information to you in person, so that like we can help each other process this. Well, I ended up waiting too long because I didn't hear anything and I needed to get this information to him. I ended up waking him up, and just like he literally came to the door like, well, his eyes were puffy, he was in the middle of sleep, probably a REM cycle, and I just pulled him right out of it. And so it's like, yeah, and so and so like the next day, like I got this information that he was trying to tell me, and I was just pissed off by the way he presented it, and I still hadn't dealt with my loss issues, and so it all manifested in this tension in my neck, and I almost blacked out a few times that day. Like I literally fell over because I was so dizzy from all of it, and it wasn't until the point where I was so emotional that I was like, "Oh God, what am I doing? What's happening? Why am I so mad?" And so I took 15 minutes, relaxed, tried to relax, and then everything hit me all at once. And I'm just like, I gotta stop. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go home. I gotta deal with this.
So things pop back up. So you're able to kind of like focus on needing to relax,
Yeah,
but things still built up
yeah,
in you, or yeah,
right,
or,
yeah.
were
Because
they
I had
coming from other places than just the neck tension then, or was it just like, uh,
right, yes.
yeah, okay, okay,
These emotions had been trapped in my body, and I wasn't dealing with them, and they were
gotcha,
manifesting,
gotcha.
in a way that took me out in
So
a physical.
from 15 minutes of relaxation and meditation, you were able to kind of like kind of pinpoint these guys, but they were coming back for they're coming back in full force. So once you're recognizing where they are, and yeah,
Yeah, but at that point, it was just a little bit too late for me to just release and let go. So like I said, I almost blacked out a few times. I fell over because I was so dizzy, and so all that said, like when I was watching this reel by the Certified Health Nut, it's like, oh, okay. He was, referencing different books that he'd read, and he's just like, so, like, some of the best ways you can discern where you're holding on to emotions is to just feel around your gut. Just see what's really sensitive. It's like, oh, why is that so sensitive? Massage into it. Feel what is it that area is bringing up in you, and kind of identify what it could be just by letting go and relaxing, trying to massage it out, and whatever it is that kind of first initiates that emotion. It's like, oh, that's what it was. I got into a fight when I was a kid, and so like I'm just so defensive by these things, and I just never let that go. I never forgave that dude. Like I just anytime I
uh,
confronted with confrontation, like I immediately just tense up and I'm ready to fight. And so if I just massage that out and work through the emotions, feel them, let it happen, forgive myself for it, forgive that guy for it, just let the emotions happen. It's just like, oh, I can finally relax, and I don't have to let that rule me anytime those things come up. Funny enough, like after doing that and kind of exploring that, I just wanted to post on the comment section. It's like, dude, this is what I was dealing with last week. Just literally this problem. And like, there was only two comments because it was a fresh video. And the first comment was like, dude, you're the man! Like 5 exclamation points. Dude was just so happy and excited to hear this information because it was validating. It helped him somehow. And then the next comment was literally just like, mumbo jumbo BS, blah, blah, blah. It was just like, how? How could there just be such a dichotomy in this situation? And then I took the opportunity to look at both commenters, and it's just like, this person is going through the process. They're doing their best to become a better person. They're
Right.
going through their traumas. They're healing. They're researching. They're
Based
studying.
on other things that they've commented, or other things that they're looking at, because you can kind of see on somebody's profile, or kind of like,
Yeah, usually you can see that kind of stuff, but
right.
I didn't dive that deep. I was just taking, it's like, okay, what's this dude about? Just on this basis of,
Gotcha.
based
Just
off
on
of what he's
surface
described,
value, you're
just surface value,
just
just see what I can
surface value of the
glean.
comment. Yep.
And so I went to the next person, and it's just like, oh, this person is overweight, and they're they might be living in a healthier environment, on the planet where there's a lot more opportunities to be healthy, but they're they're very overweight, and oh, how weird, their profession is literally pretending to be what they're not
Mm.
for for monetary compensation. They were a drag queen,
Mm.
and it's just like, really, like, in a world where you just want to be accepted for what you do, and you're typically all about freedom of expression and acceptance and body positivity, when a person is actually going through the measures of, here's how you be better, here's how you improve your body, here's how you go through those things that you might not understand on a subconscious level, but they're here present in your physicality, you're
Right.
just taking that and saying, no, that's BS. Oh, yeah, you're totally off. It's like,
Mm.
whoa, okay. So
Yeah.
levels of awareness totally
Right.
apply. And so that's just going to happen. Like, you're going to have that. Like, there's nothing you can do. But those that are ready for the information, those who are in the process of doing the work, will identify and appreciate
Right.
and advocate for. You know.
Fair enough. Right. Yeah. So I mean, when we get that audience someday, that'll they'll be like, oh yeah. They
Yeah.
won't remember. They won't remember what they were doing today, but they'll be like, yeah. But they'll definitely be able to connect with, like, oh yeah, I remember experiencing that. Or they'll probably, I mean, in all likelihood, like with any of these days, any of these characters of the Nawal, like, you can resonate with them, or reflect back. If you do any kind of reflecting, you can. Um, if you're looking long enough, hard enough, or not even necessarily hard enough, just if you're relaxed enough to kind of be open to, oh yeah, because that's something too that I feel like I struggle with, is having a memory of particular things. Like if I'm being asked, um, the particular YouTuber, or he's not a YouTuber, he's a hypnotist, and that Reiki doctor guy that I was
Mm-hmm.
talking to you about before we started, uh, he talks about, and damn it, it happened again. Oh, but that's so funny that I'm talking about memory, and my short-term memory just kind of did a blip on me, a little speed bump. But just that, he'll say things like, when he's trying to guide people through to, like, oh yeah, think of like something that you really, really wanted, like something that you really, really, really wanted, and um, what did it smell like? You got it. What did it smell like? What did it feel like? What position? What stance were you in? How are you breathing? And I'm like, well, slow down, slow down, slow down. I'm still looking for that thing that I really, really, really wanted that I got. Like, I'm trying to have that memory of because that's putting something so high on a pedestal, and also like I'm sure there's lots of things that I've gotten that I wanted or strived for, but then now I need to like build together the memory of what it looked like, felt like, and pick one. Just pick one position, pick one smell, pick one. I get overloaded and overwhelmed very easily with that. Because even if I do pick a particular memory or achievement, it's like I need a lot of time to kind of put the building blocks of that memory in place, uh, to really feel it and be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then in these little videos, and of course there's people in the audience, or there's people that he's conducting these little things with. They're like, oh yeah, like I'm feeling it. I feel so much better now, and I believe it. I believe that they're feeling it, and I believe that, but I think sometimes it can be you could even be the person who's like, yeah, you're the man, like you're doing it, but I'm I still can't get there, or I don't have the practice or the proper technique for myself that gets me to that place. And I feel like that's definitely a big struggle of mine, or that's what I'm coming to realize is a big hurdle for me in particular is just that memory. I wonder what kind of vibration, if we can kind of start to curtail this back to today's horoscope, because I'm also thinking. So you're saying 13, that day
Yeah.
of the week is movement. It literally is vibration. It's the fruition.
Yeah.
So it's like the final form of that vibration for that week, or
Yeah.
massage that to yeah.
Yeah. So like again, like if you're gonna compare it to a fruiting tree, like an apple tree, like
Hmm.
the final form is the ability for that tree to create an apple that can spread its seed, right?
Gotcha. The
So
movement, the vibration,
right,
the
yeah.
movement from the original. Yeah.
So it's gone through all these motions to be able to create this thing
Ready to start anew. Yeah.
to start anew and spread its idea around and create from that seed the next branch of growth, right?
So for versus if 7 halfway through is just rapid growth or it's just the growth stage, what's the difference? Because growth still assumes movement. I guess all of them kind of do inherently have some degree of movement in them. Although you did talk about also earlier, I think in a previous episode, about they kind of alternate. Since there's 13 days, it kind of like the odds are a status day, and then the evens are like a transition day. So
Yeah, it's so the odds are definitely that status day. They're establishing that understanding, that knowledge of say prolific growth on the seventh day, whereas the eighth day would be the integration of that understanding,
gotcha,
of that principle,
gotcha,
so that you can go forward to the next stage, which would be budding, creating that
gotcha,
thing that's going to become a flower, which will sprout this fruit,
gotcha.
like an apple or an orange or a strawberry. So and then there's
Yeah.
there's other things that just that's all they do is prolific growth, right? So ivy, for example, that's
Mm,
all. Some create a flower, but for the most part, it's just growth. It's all it's doing is growing more, expanding, growing more until it just for certain species like English ivy, it consumes whatever it's growing upon because it needs so much to grow more. Whereas, like, if you take something like a cannabis plant that only creates a bud, that is its flower, then that becomes its understanding, that becomes its fruit, that becomes the embodiment of what that thing is. So, like, that's why cannabis is so powerful. When you smoke the buds, you come to this understanding beyond magic, beyond prolific growth, right?
hmm,
And so, like, the idea of prolific growth across trees in that spectrum is that point where it's just like boom, it shoots up, man. It's growing thickly in the trunk. It's making more branches. It's creating these leaves so that it
I guess it,
can do
yeah, I guess it
uh,
makes
do what it needs to get to the stage where it can create a bud for a flower.
gotcha. Yeah, I guess because it is like it's the midpoint, and it's kind of like it kind of feels like, okay, well, I know how to be a tree, right? In terms of growth, like
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten it down in terms of like, okay, I need to get as big as I can get.
Yep.
That's what the middle of the week is. But that's before you're like, oh, I need to make the next version. That's what the latter half of the week is.
Mm-hmm.
And then the first half of the week is like, how do I get to the rapid growth stage? How do I get to where I can get bigger, 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 bigger? Um, and then yeah, everything after that. That's cool too. Because I mean, well, of course, right? Like it just makes mathematical sense if you're going to look at the week as if as a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, right. If we're on the 13th day and we just made some fruit, tomorrow that fruit's going to hit the ground. It's going to be a seed in trying to establish itself somewhere, wherever it falls, wherever it ends up.
Exactly.
So you hint. We've already kind of talked about we're in the week of the monkey. So that's our.
No, 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 no.
Oh no.
We're in the week of potential, essentially. So, the first day of the week was the first sign of the calendar.
What was all that monkey talk then?
That was just the 11th day of the week. That was just a
Was
few
the
days
monkey?
ago.
Gotcha.
That was the monkey,
Gotcha.
and it was an example of like how different points in the week can show you these different themes that you observe, understand, integrate, and grow with, right? So
Gotcha.
like that understanding of the chattering monkey, it's just like, okay, I need to speak my truth unabashedly and not hold on to it. But I also, because I'm a more aware human being, I also know that I need to be more loving in the delivery of that truth. I still don't want to hold on to it, but I need to deliver it in a softer manner.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Today is the cane, and we're in the week of the crocodile.
correct. Yes. Which is
So
the most
crocodile is primordial. Crocodile
very.
is kind of what?
It's probably one of
Right.
the oldest creatures on the planet, one of the hardiest
Yes.
creatures on the planet. In the
Right.
waters of that soup mixture, that mud, that anything can really just kind of pop out of.
Yeah. I picked up somewhere along the way too that crocodile, or it could also just be a stream, like a river.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
if you go back even further into the Mayan knowledge, it's really the origin point of the galaxy. It's G, the
Source.
start of
So
everything, the source.
is it the first symbol like number? Is it symbol number one of the 20?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
So
yeah.
both my wife and my sister-in-law, so her sister, are crocodiles. Are born on the
Oh,
day of a crocodile. Yeah,
nice. How
yeah. I don't
interesting.
know what. Yeah, yeah. I don't think any of our, as far as compatibility, signs that the crocodile. That's Cain. I'm looking at Cain right now because we were in the day of the Cain today,
Hmm.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. The connection between heaven and earth.
That's what you're saying.
Hmm.
Okay, connection between heaven and earth is the Cain.
Right. Just this pillar of light and understanding of knowledge.
Yes. So as I mean, again, according to my Mayan sign, which is the site that you gave me, where you can
Hmm.
look up your different Mayan nawals. The signs that you get that the crocodile gets along with. None of my signs. Signs that contribute to your growth. None of my signs.
Yeah.
Uh, but again, that's just like because when I've done astrology.com
Hmm.
and I looked at our the position of the planets and stuff, we got a really high score for our compatibility.
Oh
So
yeah.
uh, yeah,
So there's
and
the understanding of that my Mayan sign gives you is usually the realization that the signs that get along with you the best are usually the signs that are part of your grouping somehow. That can be the same day, the same direction, which would be the like the
Mm,
medicine wheel, the cardinal points, the things that
right.
group each thing together. Like they establish it as a color. So
Yeah.
the crocodile is red in nature, whereas you're the thunderstorm,
Root.
which is blue in nature.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's often also acknowledged that the people that are the most influential to your growth are the people of the opposite color, which would be the
Mm,
opposing cardinal point, right? So,
right.
but I mean, if you think of that in terms of how, like, the sun moves, like, it always goes from east to west for us, right? So, like, yeah, you might start off in red, but or you might start off in blue, but you're going towards red, right?
Mm,
So, like, those two go hand in hand. Just like white
gotcha.
and yellow, they go hand in hand, the north and the
Right.
south. So, like, and it's also an intimate part of your internal makeup. Now, it doesn't quite go into that within the Mayan sign, mymayansign.com, but your path is in line with your cardinal direction, with your color. So your path is along that blue line, whereas your internal self, your left and right brain, are going to be red signs. So it
Hmm.
could be very possible that her sign is in your internal makeup. So, like,
Whoa.
she's the embodiment of, say, the left half of your brain, and
I mean, there definitely is some feels like that. Like when we were um, throughout a relationship, there has been a very yin yangy feel to like our energies, and also like when one person is up, the other person is like, I need some downtime. Like where they were mismatched, but also like in a really kind of symbiotic way
a complimentary
too,
way.
a complementary way. Which was kind of funny because like sometimes I can be like like what's it, like we never seem quite aligned, but it's also like just so like
Mm.
just so that in ways where yeah there was complementary.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which,
I can see that definitely being the case.
yeah, yeah, which is also kind of funny, too, because she's this swirling cloud of potential, per se, while you're this roiling cloud of trial by fire, right? So, like, if you think of it in terms of like that first sign being almost amorphous galaxy that's starting to form, take shape. It's all this stardust, all this potential, all these
The
things that are just
crocodile.
ready to bring
Yeah,
life. Yeah, the crocodile.
yeah.
This primordial energy, this very visceral, just almost surprising at times in strength and power, just kind of always just on the verge of coalescing, whereas you're that cloud that is just roiling. It's coalesced, but it's constantly moving. It's just ever so. It's never static. It's always just kind of creating something, growing, feeding into
I
itself, and just ready
hate that.
to
I hate that. I hate
strike.
how real that's. I hate how real that sounds.
Bro,
That turmoil is yeah, no, that constant moving, that fire, like it's like I want to be able to just stay still, especially when stillness is like a crux um, of finding your center, of kind of enlightening. You need to be able to just kind of like I need to be the eye of the storm. If I'm the storm symbol, I just need to be there in the center of and see the storm going around and being like, yes, ha ha ha. But it's that's what feels so challenging. I don't know
yeah.
to what degree that's common for all other storms out there.
It's
But
it's I'm sure it's the crux, man. It is the one thing that I'm sure every storm sign has to deal with
yeah,
every time.
like today,
And that's part of
yeah,
why they give you in this app, and I'll send you your sign again if I didn't, is
oh yeah,
that point of where it says weakness. It I like better when they say it's the wisdom of the shadow, right? And how to
hmm,
transmute and transform that shadow. Because there's the light
right,
side and the shadow side, right? We've got that duality.
yeah, yeah.
I don't appreciate it saying weakness, but it's also translated from Spanish into English, so that's probably one of the closest representations you can
Sure.
get. But it has that understanding of how to identify those things that are problematic for you and shift it so that you can find the eye of the storm.
So, for example, like today, my like it would have been really helpful to be able to find a shift because I'm in kind of a headspace of where I'm like, like there's so much that I want to get done today
Mm-hmm.
before this or with the rest of the day, and um, I don't know, just that feeling of like, well, I'm not doing any of those things. Um, uh, it was more I think it was just more just kind of like feeling like I don't know, like I even ended up going, one of the things that I wanted to do was to get some barriers to put up on my planter boxes to stop the damn squirrels, and because they've still been doing their damage, and maybe that will be an ongoing theme too in our podcast is what's the situation with Brian and the squirrels. But I kind of abandoned it because like what I had in my head as what I wanted to do, I was like, well, this is just going to be too expensive to get all the pieces that I need, and I'm not sure even how effective it's going to be, and then I have to get it all set up. So it just became this like, I came out here because this is what I wanted to do, and now I'm leaving because with nothing and no plan, and the squirrels are still going to be a problem. Um, and it was just kind of that. I think that was kind of like the epitome of kind of like, okay, I had these things that I wanted to do today, but I don't think I'm going to get any of them done. Um, and then just kind of having to sit with that. Uh, um, uh, being kind of symbolic of like what it's like to be in a storm. It's like because it's just like here's everything all at once right now. Um, and and don't try and build anything. Like don't try and don't get the community all out to hang out. Around the fire. Good luck lighting one. Like even though it's like it's cool. Like look at everything that's happening out here. Like it's really life is out here. Look at the trees. Like they're hanging in there. Look what they're doing. All the lessons could be learned at that time, but it's like the worst time. No, everybody's going to be sheltering in place. Uh, so
Yeah.
so yeah, it doesn't matter what Storm wants to do. It's like it just feels like it's going to break everything. I don't know. Yeah,
Well, I
or not
mean,
get anything done. Yeah.
I mean that could possibly be um, what it needs to be. You know, uh, like this. Today is as much the understanding that things are constantly in motion, as well as understanding what you can and can't do, even though you know what you want to do.
Hmm.
Like you get to that point, it's like, I want to do all these things, but I can't. I just have to accept it and just let the fruit drop. I can't hold
Okay.
on to this.
That and being the cane too. Like, is how's that influenced by the because today's a cane?
So, well, that's the recognition of the connection between the heaven and earth. It's like
Hmm.
there's things that are beyond your control. As much as you
Yeah.
can do to control what you can control, there are things that are outside of you that are going a
Hmm.
million miles an hour. You have to recognize, okay, this is just not a good day for this, and I have to accept that, and so we have to drop that plan and let it plant a seed for the next part of the process.
Totally. God, man, that is a regular struggle for me. I think. Oh, well, maybe it happens at least once every 13, 14 days. You know, there's that feeling of like, oh, I have so much energy. I'm ready to go. I want to do it. Um, but either I'm just like in a mood or something. Like
Yeah,
I'm just in a state and I can't let it go. I'm probably in a mood because something has happened or something's happening that day that it means that I don't get to do any of those things. Don't get any of that done. Doesn't matter how ready you were.
yeah.
Uh,
So,
that's just really difficult for a storm because you can't bottle a storm. You can't
right.
trap a storm. Yeah.
Yeah. So, let's try to bring it
Let's,
back, reel it in a little
yes.
bit.
Back to the horoscope. Yes.
So we mentioned that it's about the universal principle of vibration. Like we're still on page 1, line 1.
13. All right. Let's hammer it
So
out. Yeah.
what the tone Oxlahun 13 means, besides being the principle of movement and vibration, is presence, to extend and last. Just that understanding that it's always here and it will echo into eternity. So, what it represents is that everything that exists is in perpetual motion. It's constantly moving. From the most subtle of vibrations to the most dense and heavy, which is an expression of those lower frequencies, to the extent that these things seem to sleep, like a rock, right? It's dense vibration. It's the most material thing that we can understand, and is the hardest thing to penetrate. And it seems static. It's not moving, it's not doing anything, but it is. It's constantly vibrating. It has its own sound, it has its own presence. It wouldn't exist if it didn't vibrate.
Yeah.
So the movement, that vibration, is the energy that flows from source, and like a pond, ripples back and returns to it. Like a rock dropping in a pond, it ripples out into eternity, but when it hits the edge, it comes back always. This principle gives the importance to everything, and they all work with and obey the law of one. It's all one thing. It's all one superorganism. But we as individuals are going through our own process as one amalgamation superorganism ourselves, as a reflection of that above, so below, right? So, this gives the quality of endurance beyond time and space, that echo that repeats throughout eternity. The total union of all previous numbers. That means 13 has the knowledge of everything that came before it, right? The fruit has all of the knowledge of what it took to be the seed, to be the germ, to be the sprout. All of it, that prolific growth, that flower, that bud, all of it is encapsulated in that perfect package of fruit and has that seed in it to continue on in eternity. So this represents inner knowledge, insight, centrality, because if you think of most seeds, they're directly in the center of the fruit, and transparency. This lack of hiding. It's there. You just have to know it's there to see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the wisdom of the universe, the Mother Earth, and respect to what exists, flowers, and bears fruit. All life is sacred, and everything is alive.
Word.
Mic drop.
Whoa.
Right? So, and that's just the understanding of what 13 is. That doesn't even go
Right.
into the understanding, the complex understanding of what this symbol represents. So, just as an example, you were talking about your garden today. Those people that are born under the sign are typically really good at being farmers, growers of cornfields, nutritionists, comedians, anthropologists, doctors, and those whose pursuit is spiritual science of the law of oneness.
Whoa.
Right? Yeah.
If you're born on a 13 day,
Yeah.
or we're all experiencing some on every day of 13, we are also having some form of that.
Yeah. All the things
Right.
that
We're
that
coming
we've
to some cycle. Yeah.
right, exactly. We're coming to the fruition of some cycle. We're understanding the knowledge of the past to such an extent that we can see the whole for what it is, like a nutritionist.
Gotcha.
Like they see the whole body, they know what it needs, and they advise you to insert those things into your body so that you can come back to wholeness, to oneness.
So that's interesting too, because what this basically says too is that, like where we're used to in the modern world, and I would say most people alive today are used to operating on a 7 day week, right? That things happen in a cycle of 7 days, and and what this Mayan calendar is saying is that in order to integrate new versions of ourselves or go through processes takes 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Takes um, and like you said, there's lots of different calendars that probably all approach different aspects of our beingness, or like elements of timing and whatever. Why you would need a calendar to schedule things and that happen a certain way. But this particular calendar, and what is it? What is this calendar specifically called?
The
The
Cholkin.
the Cholkin. Okay, Cholkin kind of sounds like choking.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've always
Cholkin.
referred to it as the Tolkien, which, if you
With the
break it
T,
down,
like
right? Yeah, it's
Cholkin. Cholkin.
kin Kin is the understanding of day, and Sol, part of it is literally spirit. The other part is vibration. So, like, really, and if you think about how it sounds, soul, 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 like, it's the soul day. So,
Oh,
soul, yeah. Soul,
yeah.
yeah,
That sounds so nice.
right?
That's some good singing.
Yeah,
That's some good existence.
I've been practicing,
Hmm.
taking classes. I need to relieve myself really bad, so look. Do you mind if we pause and take a break real quick?
Yeah, let's pause. We can
Okay,
pause the thing,
we can pause a thing.
and then we can edit this out later.
Uh, if they'll even notice.
Right.
All right, here we go. All right, and we're back. Thank goodness. Yeah, so we left off talking about beneficial occupations for the 13th energy symbol, which is known as Ah by the Quiche Mayan or Ben by the Yucatec Mayan, which is a good thing to actually note. I have come to find out that the two tribes that associate themselves the most with the Mayan and differentiate their language, as far as the symbols are concerned, are actually the light and shadow sides of the same information. So
Oh,
so one example that is particularly poignant, which would be tomorrow, is the jaguar. The one tribe understands them as being the Balam, which is what they call their sorcerers, their witch doctors, their shaman, their knowledge keepers. Which, and the other side calls it the Ish, which I would assume be their black magic users. And the understanding of both of these sounds correlate to the jaguar. So, real quickly, the Mayan break down their language based off of the sounds that the universe creates. Right? So if you've got, say, the bee that I mentioned last week, their major sound is bzz. So they call it sib. Right? So it's like, oh, of course, that's why that makes so much sense. So if you take the second to listen to what the sound is for the jaguar, it's like, okay, what is balam? Balam, balam, baram, balam, brr. It's the purr, right? And we understand in modern times that the purr is actually a healing sound. It's what these creatures do in order to help facilitate the healing process, both for themselves and for others. When you look at the other side, Ish. What is Ish? Ish. Ish. It's danger. It's get away from me. I'm warning you. Back off. I'm gonna bite you. Right? And so, like, it's literally the two diametrically opposed energies of the same creature. So it's the same creature, just with that opposite understanding. So, just bringing it back to today, it's it's spelled A-J, but J is a H in Mayan language. So it'd be a which, it's like, okay, when you reach this point of wisdom and understanding, it's right? It's that moment of, oh, I get it. Okay. And some people might say, but no, that's the same as aha. It's not. If you go down to the 20th symbol, that is aha. It's not just the recognition, it's aha. Not only do I recognize what to do with this, I know where to go with it. So, right? It's just natural. It's a primal understanding within that vibration. It's just like, oh yeah, the light turned on. Aha! I've got the idea now. Not only do I have the wisdom, I can create with it.
Gotcha.
So, bringing it back. So, what the Mayan understand this day to be about, beyond just representing the embodiment of the number 13, is that is the Skywalker, right? Very, very Star Warsy. The traveler of space and time, who is able to jump dimensionally, that connection between heaven and earth, jump dimensionally in order to help you achieve heaven on earth, right? You can, I can jump up there, take that bit of knowledge, bring it down here, and just embody that, right? And this understanding is unlimited in form. It can be all things, but it often embodies that of an angelic messenger. Right? Coming down from heaven to earth. This asks you to live the new myth, the new legend, the new understanding, to bring that heaven to earth in your daily life. Take that wisdom and just embody it.
Lock it
While
in.
lock it in, man. And so while
'Cause we
this
gotta, we gotta,
reality,
because next week we got a new fruit to make. So
exactly.
lock it in, get it going, because we got new fruit to produce. We're gonna start small. We're gonna start small. Don't you worry about that. But we need to lock in what we've already put together here.
100%, brother. 100%. So it's this while this reality is while you're experiencing this reality, this also touches, it tingles, it arouses that same truth in others, right? So while you're embodying this new understanding, people are
Mm.
just like kind of graced by it. It kind of just brushes them off. It's like, what was that? You know, it's
Uh-huh.
like a wind all of a sudden just. It's like,
I like
whoa,
that.
what is this?
I like that.
And it affects them in a new way, and it kind of sparks that same, oh, that's what it is. That's the thing I've been looking for. Hey, come here. I need to talk to you about this. You know, and so this also represents the balance within your life that is not static. It's constantly in motion. It's that it's almost like the way an atom expresses itself within light, right? The electrons are constantly moving between different states and different dimensions, and all the while releasing this energy that we can perceive. And if we tune into it, we perceive that, oh, that's yellow. Why is that yellow? Why I want to check that out? Oh, that's sulfur. Okay, I need to understand what that sulfur is. Oh, okay. But if you can mix it with something else, it creates something wholly different. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, where does that go? And so, like, you're constantly receiving information in this vibratory way, right? It's in and out. It's constantly just. So this is a dynamic that is in equilibrium, right? It's constantly in its own balance because it has to be. That's how the vibration works. That's the frequency. That's that wavelength. It is that way because of the way that vibration is structured. It's in balance. And that includes both your present expression, your physical body, and your light body, your stellar being, your soul, right? Because your soul is vibrating through this physicality, this meat puppet that you're in control of, that's yours, specifically and uniquely yours, tied to your own vibration. I don't know if we touched on this idea. I think we have in the past, just off camera. Is this that idea that this body that we have is this brain that we have is more of an antenna, right? It's tuned in to something, and if you lose the TV, the body, if you lose the body, if you die, you can still tune into that frequency if you tap into the right channel, right?
Mm.
So if you reincarnate and you have the proper frequency, you can tap into the right channel and your soul is immediately connected and the story continues, right? Your
Mm.
soul's journey continues. So you're constantly evolving on a spiritual level. It's just your physicality might not recognize it right away because it's too much information at once.
Yeah, and relative to on a time scale uh, of your whole life, it might take you your whole life, and there's a chance that you don't at all.
Right.
But
Yeah.
doesn't mean that your soul isn't still taking in the experience and learning from it, I suppose, just probably at a slower rate.
Yeah.
Uh,
And which is, I think, what they are constantly referring to as enlightenment. Like, once you reach that point of light understanding, you can actually tap into your soul, embody that light, and directly connect your experiences to soul evolution.
I just had an aha. I just had a breakthrough. And it's kind of frustrating, I think, to realize. It's that if it's all vibration, and given some basic physics of what we know about vibration, it's like you and that it was just kind of a realization of like kind of like fatalistic the fatalistic reality that you don't get to. It almost feels like you don't get to choose. You don't get to choose whether you get to tune into that frequency or not, or to the degree that you get to, or to the degree that you get to stay in that frequency for the rest of your life. That you get even exposed to what you need to get exposed to so that you can be aware that you can tune into that frequency, or the absence of exposure to things so that you have to devise your own way to tune yourself to make sense of the world that you're in. That's all kind of handed to you. You don't really have control. You don't have free will. So where the free will of it is an illusion. Thank you, Sam Harris. But like, yeah, so to that extent, I don't know if that's probably a tangent.
No,
But
not in any way. Actually,
yeah.
that's I think very great point. I would counter that though with if you're embodying a soul as a soul, and you're embodying in dense physical reality from a perspective of no time into all time, I think you always have the choice, and
It
it's
could
just a matter
happen.
of
It could happen
circum.
spontaneously.
Yeah,
In a sense, too, it could happen spontaneously, or it could emerge, through things beyond, yeah, again, your conscious meat puppet awareness. Yeah, kind of like I wasn't aware of the changes that I was making, 2 years ago, or it's a longer process than that. Like I haven't been aware of my current stage of evolution that I'm at in my life and how it's been accelerating. I don't know, maybe I'm at a rapid growth stage of it. Um, or actually, I have no idea at what point I might be. Because I feel like the seed of it. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Is like, when was the seed of it? And that's my fascination in general with human consciousness. And as I don't know if we discussed it during the podcast, but like I have this fascination with mankind's firsts and like Cro-Magnons, and when we first discovered fire, but like that whole idea that the inception of an idea isn't really a moment. It's not a piece. It's not like a moment. It's like we observed fire for so long. We lugged things around for so long that by the time we were making wheels, by the time we were actually setting up campfires or collecting wood and setting it on fire for ourselves, like it was a long, gradual, like the experiences and the stories that those early humans would tell about how to do that or like how to get a hold of it took a long time to evolve. It's like, well, this one time, I can imagine like being a part of a troglodyte tribe where they're like, oh, this one time, Grok, man, he went really close to the fire and he grabbed a branch. He actually grabbed a branch and he was swinging it around. Oh man, he burnt the shit out of his arm. But man, he will never live that down. And we had light. We scared away maybe a tiger. I don't even.
yeah.
You would need to know that, but you would know. But that story itself would evolve until it's like, okay, well, we grab it here, and then we can get close to the fire at this place, and every fire is different. I don't know, like, and then to where you also have to like recognize like, oh, we can take this force of nature and like to break it down. Like, okay, so it burns all the trees, it burns wood, it burns us, it burns everything. It seems to get really big in forested areas. It burns really fast through grass. Like you're taking all the little pieces. You're like, okay, so if we get a bunch of grass together and put a ball of it, at the center, and then put some pieces of wood on top of that, then we can, contain it and then get all the other burnable stuff away from it. Then we can have it here in this little location. We'll just bring sticks as we want it to continue. that kind of thing. That
Yeah.
it takes that finding the inception point is so difficult. The seed moment for anything um, makes sense that I'd fall in love with a crocodile. Then I guess because I'm so obsessed with the source and like
Yeah,
the
dude.
things all like I guess that really does make sense then. Where does storm fall in the 20 symbols? Is it where is it along the line of 20 symbols?
Number 19.
Well, we're at the end. Well, that makes sense too,
Right.
I guess. What is
Trial
the
by
20
fire.
trial by
Trial by
fire?
fire. So it's that last step that you take of integrating all of this knowledge before you get to that aha moment of full
So,
enlightenment.
so that also is like I'll never have that, right? So I'm just gonna constantly be trial by fire,
Oh,
trial by like, oh, it's
bro.
all there. I see it, I know what it's gonna be, and then it's like, but no, I never get it, never get it. I'm always
Well, bro, no. See, I think that's where it comes to finding the eye of the storm is being at peace with all of that constant roiling motion, that trial by fire. Yeah, you can reach that point, but you're more your homeostasis, your point of true calm is being in that point of learning these things, going through that trial by fire, and then going to the next thing, learning that thing, learning that trial by fire, and then going to that next thing because
a
it's
true a
always
true
surrounding you.
a true jack of all trades, master of none. I just have to be ready to just drop it. I was just saying that today too to my wife. I was just saying uh, something about that, like that feeling that I have, and because I was telling her like, I'm kind of like, I don't know what's going on, but like, and it has something to do with that feeling like oh I could do this, I could do that, yeah, all these things that I want to, yeah, I can't, that I don't have my own thing. I don't have my own thing. It's like it's always all these other things. What's the 20th symbol on the calendar?
The sun,
Uh,
the light, aha, yeah, the
oh,
completion of the
born under the
journey.
sun. Ooh. My dad's a
Right?
Leo too. So and there's
He's probably a sun sign.
yeah, yeah, and for the Aquarius, like the sign that you're supposed to learn from is the Leo. So I'm an Aquarius. I was born as an Aquarius, and then the sign that you're supposed to kind of like pay attention to and kind of like model, they kind of balance you out, is a sun sign. And there's God, it's so annoying too because like in my early 20s, like whenever I was compared to my father, like either by looks or like mannerisms and things like that, it's like I'm just like my dad. Like that's the last thing you want to hear when you're a young adult trying to make your own name for yourself. And then, but then I've like learned to like, well, no, there's a lot of qualities about my dad that are actually like to be admired and to be respected. So I put him back on the pedestal. When you're growing up, your dad can be, like that pedestal person.
Right, and then
And
at
then
some
they
point you're
fall off
constantly
because
trying
you're
to take
trying
them
to,
down.
yeah. Then you're trying to take them down. You're like, I know I'm going to do something better than you. I'm going to be better. But that's the goal. That's the hope. Any father, as I can now ascribe, once they're ideally their progeny would supersede them, be able to go further, experience greater heights than they were able to achieve. But yeah, and then, so I'm seeing even more so now. I would be curious now. I don't think he was. No, he's not a sun sign. Because I did look up my whole family,
Oh,
of
okay.
course, after and but yeah, so yeah, I'd be kind of curious. But Leo is the sun sign of the Greco
The zodiac, yeah.
zodiac. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry for all that. We're still on 13. Are we still on 13? Or
We're
we have,
still
we
on
have
13.
We haven't even gotten to Cain yet. All right, or
No,
what
no,
we
no.
hear.
We're in the cane. We're in the cane now. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
We're almost through it actually, and we're getting close to that point of understanding how to improve the follies within the cane. So
Where's the Cain? Where's the Cain on the 20-day symbol?
number 13,
Number 13.
right?
So, oh,
Right. That's why it's
gotcha.
the embodiment of 13, because it's the 13th symbol. That's what makes the first week so powerful. Is each day is paired with its embodying number. So that the first day of this week was the crocodile, the first symbol. So it's 1-1,
Oh,
right? So it's amplified that much more by their symbols. So that's why this week is so impactful.
so yeah. So I'm confused again. So we got 20 symbols, but we've got
Yep.
13 days.
Yep.
And you're saying that because this is like there's an alignment here where
Mm-hmm.
on the 13th day it is the Cain.
Mm-hmm.
That's been happening this whole week, then, right?
Yes.
Right, right. Okay. And then sorry, one more time. Reiterate what that means then for the Cain. This is the what are you calling that?
So it's the
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 embodiment of the Cain? Or?
it's the cane is the embodiment of 13 because it's the 13th
Gotcha,
symbol, but
gotcha.
in terms of how you would categorize this as a portion of growth, this would be the fruit of the cane, the fruit
Gotcha.
of the heaven and earth, right?
Okay.
The vibration of the unification of oneness. Like there's a lot of ways to describe it because of the incredible amount of information that's in each number and the expansive amount of information that this symbol holds.
Gosh,
So
I mean, ultimately, it's all one number anyway, right? Because it's all
right,
one.
that's all oneness.
So
Right.
we're just twiddling our thumbs here, trying to divide it all into different numbers and different meanings.
Which is why it's so important to have the fruit so it can come back to one, to the seed. Because it
Beautiful.
contains that understanding, that knowledge, that wisdom of oneness.
Okay.
So, um, uh,
Gotcha, Cain, and that's why the vertical. It's like heaven to earth. It's like
yes.
it's growing out of the earth, and it's also like represented by the trunk of the tree. But it's
Hmm.
also like because like the Mayan sign talks about Cain's being, stubborn, but like willful, like
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, my grandma was one, and she is very stubborn and very
And she
willful.
used one. She used one on you.
Nah, not on me. Yeah. Yeah, she was a strong woman.
Right.
And part of that manifested in like our lineage because we're Apache by lineage. And when she was telling me this, I was just like, "Oh, Grandma, are you sure it wasn't like Arapaho or something like that?" And she's like, "No, we're Apache." It's like,
Yeah.
"Yes, ma'am."
Right.
She's almost 80 at this point, or she might have been like 82 or something. It's just like, oh shit,
Whoa.
uh,
Yeah.
grandma just showed me some fire.
Yeah, it's the same. I mean, also that seems to be like I don't know. Maybe we'll get there as we get older, but that seems to be a something of older generations where you go through periods where you're very you hold your heritage tightly,
Hmm.
regardless of the truth of it or not. Like it was told to you in a certain way. Regardless of its veritas, regardless of its truth, it's like you claim it.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of that has gotten whitewashed in the culture today. It's like I felt that growing up. It's like
Hmm.
the shame of being just kind of white bread, who nobody cares your heritage. You know, and I'm sure it's different for different people, but in general, for me growing up, the sense I got is like, let's talk about all the other cultures, and I was happy to learn about, and I still am. And in fact, if anything, I'm more passionate about other cultures than learning more of about my own. But that's the thing is like that's because I feel like that's the point. Um, is to not necessarily be so grapple hooked about your heritage. It's like let's see what we can learn about the heritage of being human and just being a living thing, being a conscious being. That's that's more open, and I feel like you can learn more and also like learn faster. So I'm curious if there's some truth to that of like that's an old adage, you know, that's something that we're kind of moving away from, is like that need, that feeling like that the heritage is what makes you strong, makes you you, and that's kind of going away, or that's fruiting, you know, that's making we're making room for that in this globalized world where it's like, well, we're all here trying to make it work on this planet now
Oh yeah.
because we're all
Well,
connected. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, we taking it back to the whole plant understanding, it it is so good to know your neighbors, to respect your neighbors, to
Yeah.
learn from your neighbors, right? Like you're going to be living with these other people, these other creatures.
Yeah.
You better know about them so that you can
Yeah.
live better in harmony with them.
Yeah.
But you also have to know your roots because they're what got you here, right?
Hmm.
That's where you draw your
Uh,
sustenance from, right? Is the earth through your
so
roots, right? So you
yeah.
have to have as above, so below, right? As below, so above, right?
Hmm.
You wouldn't exist. Your leaves, your branches wouldn't exist if you didn't have those roots deeply entrenched into the earth, right?
Yes. But we're
And those
not
things come
plants.
first.
But we're not plants though. So I mean, in the sense that in the sense that our roots can move, you know, because we're
Yeah.
mobile, in the sense that like if you struggle with your heritage because I don't know, like yeah, you could have a really dark heritage and it's something that you want to move away from. Um, that but to that end, it's still feeding you, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
still your roots. Just to know that, like, oh, my ancestors were slave owners. They were part of the Nazi Party. They were, I don't know. My dad was a raper and a killer, you know, like, and he was incarcerated his whole life. Like any of those things, it's like knowing that gives you a direction to
Yes.
move if you want to keep up the legacy. The because I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is like a heritage assumes a certain legacy that
Mm-hmm.
that you're supposed to uphold. Like if you are of the same tree, you know that's your family tree. That you're still growing that tree. But as we're learning and as we're continuously analogizing, you're
Mm-hmm.
becoming a new fruit. So you're
Sure.
supposed to be learning from the experiences of the previous trees, and this new fruit can become a tree over here that doesn't do those terrible things to
Right.
the rest of
Exactly. And so, like, the weird thing is like in that understanding that you've just kind of laid out there. Yeah, there's a lot of darkness in the past, a lot of war, a lot of killing to survive. Sometimes maliciously, sometimes as pure necessity. Uh, but like that darkness is where all roots reside, and then it's when
it.
you in the growth process you break into the light, right, and you can become that much more than what your roots are. You can bear the fruit knowing that those things existed, but you don't have to carry them forward. It's all the best things that are being produced in your fruit to create the next cycle. Of
So
course, you can always like embody those dark things, but like then you're probably going to have rotten fruit. It's probably going to be
yeah, that's
bitter,
that's
sour,
going to be
you
my
know.
question. Is like you might be able to burst through into the light, but like if you're still carrying those, I don't know, yeah, that tainted soil or whatever that's uh, like you might be able to burst through. Yeah, what does that do? Like, how much influence could you really have? Or like, yeah, you're gonna feel weakened. You're gonna feel weak and small, and you're not gonna
Mm-hmm.
have much impact. So terrible things are meant to die too. You know, like in that
Mm-hmm.
sense. I guess like really terrible things can't spread. They won't be able to learn how to utilize other resources to make themselves grow strong or big or to have an impact. Uh, um, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
trying to like spread this analogy in a way where it's like, but like there are still really powerful, big, strong trees of evil that do
Yeah.
evil things. But they and this comes back to maybe what we talked about in our first episode, where it's like they don't recognize that that's what they're doing. They're just soaking up light. They're just soaking up the fruit, and they're just making fruit. So they don't recognize that they're doing evil things. So that's where I'm going. Like that, whatever look you saw Bill Gates give his wife that we talked about in that first episode, it's like I don't think there's any way for us to know what was behind those eyes. Like true evil, like doesn't probably recognize itself as evil. It doesn't recognize itself as, and so of course the wife of Mister I'm going to do something evil thinks, hey, they're doing great stuff. Like otherwise, I would have never have gotten involved with them. But
Mm-hmm.
we're all going through transitions and fruiting cycles of our own, so we don't. I don't know. You don't know your partner. You don't know your father, your best friend, day to day. Anything could have happened in the last since the last time you spoke to them. They don't even know themselves. We don't know ourselves fully, and what
Mm-hmm.
we're capable of. Most of us, most of the time, most of us are asleep. Just watch the movie Soul. You'll see a bunch of people covered in black soot up in the
Yeah.
soul world or whatever. And I have to wonder, like, how much of me is covered in black soot too. And so yeah, you can be. So just to hammer on the point again, it's like I don't think yeah, the people that you think, anybody out there, anybody listening, that thinks like, oh, this person is evil, this person is bad, I don't like them. It's like, uh, it's like looking in a mirror. It's like that they exist to show you, just like your roots and just like your
Mm-hmm.
heritage. That's all the same stuff to show you. Like, well, if you don't like it, how are you like it?
Mm-hmm.
In what ways do you do that thing that, um, or are where is the void in you because you're so oil and water, you're so resistant to that thing that diminishes your own power.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it so that you can't manifest the things that you want to exist because you're so. I need to remove this. This is a tumor. This needs to.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, we need to cut that off and separate ourselves from it. Right. But it's
Yeah, it's
still
not.
part of who you are, and
Yeah.
you grew that. I like where you were going with that, with the origins and a direction. I think James Spader said it really well in Stargate, the movie. Like, you have to have coordinates, right, in order to know where it is you're going. But in
Mm.
order to plot a course, you have to know where you start from.
Mm.
And that was the key to the seventh symbol that allowed them to open up the
Oh.
Stargate and head forward into their future.
You gotta know where you are to begin with.
Right. And learn
To
more
know
about
where
their own
you want to,
past.
yeah, to plot a course
Right.
anywhere, you gotta know where you are. You gotta know two things: where you
Mm-hmm.
are, and
And where
then
you're going.
where you're going.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then and actually arriving at where you want to go teaches you more about your own past. And so, right? Yeah, boosh. So we got like 10 seconds left, bro.
No, I think that's a beautiful thing to end it on. I mean, we're talking
I think
about
so.
fruiting trees, and we fruited, and we're talking about the start point and the end point. Next week, we'll be at day 7. Yeah.
Yep. All right, brother.